meaningful growth, connection, and purpose. And Shape EA has shaped my career. And I hope it does the same for you if you're already a member or if you really want to join. So you can see on that slide there, there is the QR code. What's next? Our next webinar in February. Please mark your calendars for this webinar. It's enhancing your physical education program with dance and movement exploration. And if that's not for you, please share it with your fellow health and physical education professionals. Our heartbeats always grow stronger when we grow together. There are a few housekeeping items for this webinar tonight. And Andrew, if you could, there we go. The session is being recorded and will be available on the Shape PA website. And there's also Act 48 credit available. And at the conclusion of our webinar this evening, we'll have the opportunity to fill out a form for that. Please mute your microphone to minimize the background noise and feel free to unmute it or use the chat if you have a question. We have Rick Howard monitoring the chat. I'd like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Andrew Silverman, who collaborated with an outstanding group of coaches to make tonight's webinar both informative and meaningful for everyone. And thank you to the panel of expert coaches for sharing your time, knowledge, and passion. So let's get started. It's my pleasure to turn things back to Andrew and our panel of coaches.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Linda. So let's get into the reason why we're all gathered here today. Allow me to introduce my colleagues and your panelists for the evening. Let's have each coach kind of give a brief introduction about themselves and their coaching experience. We'll just start with Tom.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Palfey. I'm a teacher at the Altoona Area High School, where I'm the department chair. I've been there for 33 years. I started coaching in '89 under my head coach at my high school in my sophomore year at college. That's where I got my start. He ended up in the PA Football Hall of Fame. I went to Altoona, which is my wife's school to student teach, and ended up under another Pennsylvania Hall of Fame football coach who just retired this week with 290 wins, John Franco. Then that was taken over by Ed Dalton, who's led 5 teams to state playoffs at 5 different schools. Then I was under Phil Riccio after that. Then I went back with John Franco to Tyrone. Then I got to take over Altoona High for 3 years. And now the quarterback of the 1997 Western semifinal team, one of our best teams in school history. Their quarterback that I coach is now the head coach and asked me back to coach. So I've been coaching with him for 5 years. So it's been a pretty awesome ride.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. We'll go to Deb.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Deb Lawler. I am a health and PE teacher at Lower Moreland Township High School. I am going on my 30th year next school year, so I'm looking forward to what my coaching career brings me when I have more time. I have coached 34 years in both the sports of lacrosse and field hockey. And in that time, I've spent it at basically 2 schools, one at Lower Moreland, where I'm currently. I started my career there. I then left and became the head coach for girls lacrosse at Gwinnett Mercy Academy and the assistant field hockey coach there as well. I retired from coaching at Gwinnett. At least I thought I did. I came back to class the next day at Lower Moreland. Everybody knew I retired from Gwinnett, and they asked me to come back and coach there. I said no, but 10 minutes later, I came out of retirement and I'm back at Lower Moreland. And I am so thankful that I'm back. And I just really appreciate coaching the same students that I teach. So I've been blessed, and I'm really excited to be here this evening.
Awesome. Thank you, Deb. Let's go, Julian.
Hey everybody, Julian McFadden. Nice to virtually meet you all. I've been coaching for 16 years now. I started at Division II Chestnut College in Philadelphia, and then I took over the school I graduated from, Springside Chestnut Academy. So I'm an alum of 2006. I took that over in 2016. So, been coaching there for the last 15 years. We've had a lot of great accomplishments, a lot of really good players. Nothing I can really take credit for. I've had some good kids. I've been teaching for 15 years. I was teaching at Mastery Charter School for about 10 of those years. And then I'm at SCH Academy. I'm the Dean of Students in the middle school. And I am the Learning Support Specialist also in the middle school. But I've been coaching a couple different sports outside of basketball. I do some track and field and some football, some youth football. I try to do as much volunteerism as I can around that. So coaching is kind of my life. And I'm excited to see everybody, meet everybody, and talk a little bit today.
Awesome. Thank you, Julian. And Devin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Devin Shantz. I have been a physical education teacher for 18 years. 15 years have been at Haverford Middle School. And like many of the other people who've been talking, I've been coaching every second of my life, whether it be field hockey, basketball, lacrosse, but lacrosse is my bread and butter. I coach at Haverford High School. I've coached at Immaculata University, and my second full-time job, call it, is I'm a director of a girls lacrosse club team. I oversee 9 teams, and we travel all over the country in hopes of developing them to be recruited in college and play in college. So I've have had many girls committed to Division 1, 2, and 3 from being coached by me and my staff. So I'm excited to talk about that aspect as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Devin. And once again, I'm Andrew Silverman, health and physical education teacher and coach at Springside Chestnut Hill Academy. Started off my first 13 years of teaching. I was in the District of Philadelphia. Just came over to SCH 4 years ago. Been teaching 17 years, coaching 18 years. Spent 10 years coaching Division 2 and 3 college tennis at Chestnut Hill College, Holy Family University, and Bryn Mawr College. Coached in the NCAA tournament 5 different times. Been named men's and women's assistant ITA East Region Assistant Coach of the Year a couple different times, and had the opportunity to coach athletes from 15 different countries across 5 continents. And I've been running the boys and girls tennis program at Springside Chestnut Hill Academy now for 4 years. So really, really privileged to have the opportunity to coach for such a long time, and then obviously teaching as well. So really excited about this group of panelists, and let's get into it here. So some of the topics we're going to cover tonight: team culture, leadership, and being the head of a program, proper emphasis on winning and losing, tryouts, developmentally appropriate practices, liability issues, and then partnering with parents and families. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce each topic, and I'll give each of our coaches the opportunity to chime in and talk about whatever they'd like to discuss about those topics. Some of the topics are going to kind of be together with each other. So if you have a question along the way, feel free to put it in the chat. And we're going to have Rick Howard monitor the chat for us. So thank you, Rick, for doing that. All right. First and foremost, what are your thoughts on the value of team culture and being the leader and face of a sports program?
I'll jump in, Andrew, if you don't mind. I'll
Sure.
start that conversation off. Actually, I love the question. I'm a firm believer that the culture that you establish starts at actually prior to tryouts, all the way to the banquet, and the message has to be the same. That's my biggest, I think, thread throughout my coaching career, is that I'm transparent in all aspects. So creating a team culture. I believe coaching women's sports, and just going to really come from that lens, is imperative in the building of strong, compassionate, respectful, accountable, and resilient young ladies. And that's my goal at the end. At the high school level, yeah, we can talk about win and loss, and that has a lot in the culture, but that's not the starting point. So again, I think in the beginning is really just truly trying to find out the buy-in to my team's program, being transparent, and then in threading that through the entire season, all the way to our banquet speech, wrapping up, celebrating some fine young women through winning loss. We have a theme each year, and this past year, our theme was destroy with grace. And for some, they might say, wait a second, Lawler, that doesn't sound like you to destroy competition. But it is ultimately at the high school level, winning is why we step on the field with one of the components, but we're doing it with grace. And that just really means self-control and playing with respect and compassion, but at the ultimate that we leave everything on the field. And that's through failure and picking yourselves up. I just read a great article about when coaches yell, hey, shake it off. And do we really teach girls how to shake it off? So that was something that resonated with me, and I did a lot of learning recently about that. But team culture is everything. I'm very theme-based, moving a program. And it doesn't always mean forward in win-loss. It's really forward in the culture of the team.
Thank you, Deb.
I'll take the second thing. I think, your team has to be a family, and our best teams have been and still are the best families. Just the other night, one of our coaches went to the hospital in Pittsburgh, and no one went over with them. So I called someone from that 97 team that was so good and said, hey, Coach Sims is over there in the hospital. Would you go over and see him? And without a question, guy went over. And I think those being there for 30 some years, you've seen the ups and downs, and we're just coming out of the down, and we're about to get the sons of those teams that won. So I'm hoping as I retire here, we go out on a high note with the next 3 years. But our best teams have been the ones that they would do anything for each other. Their families are tight with each other. Their parents, when the kid comes home and says, hey, I'm not getting a chance or whatever, instead of calling the coach or calling the administration, their parents said, well, then you better try harder, or you better go in and have a talk with the coach. And I think we're getting back to that again in our program, which is nice to see. So, I'd say, the culture of being a family, and then finding leaders. We've had a lack of leadership among our kids. Somewhere along the line, it didn't become cool to be a leader. It was cool to go along with everybody else and make fun of everybody. If you were a gym jock now, or if you were something, you got made fun of instead of looked at as the top of the program. Now it's starting to change back again, but for some reason, the last 10 years, there haven't been a lot of kids that step up and take a leadership a part of the program. So, and maybe, COVID had something to do with it or whatever, or maybe a shift in our families at home. I'm not sure, but I know this group coming in, we're taught the right way and had the best teams in our district. And I look forward to that coming back in our program.
That's a great point, Tom. Deborah, your point on the transparency piece, that's probably the most important aspect to really start with. Because I think the thing about families are, to Tom's point, families are transparent. Families, they don't shy away from confrontation, right? So I think culture sometimes is a thing that requires confrontation. You kind of got to fight for it every single day. And I think, culture is intentional, right? Like, it's intentional about how we want athletes to interact with one another. This is a part of our culture. So this is how I, as the coach, want to show you this is how we interact. It's intentional. Like, early is on time is late is left. Like, right? Some people laugh because people have heard that one. It's intentional, right? We want to do things in the same exact way because it's about, I guess it's kind of like organizational health, sort of. And that, like, to make the cohesive team, you got to kind of create clarity. And that clarity is like, sometimes it's rules. Sometimes it's rules that aren't necessarily rules, but everybody knows, like, that's just a part of what we do. And again, that's going to require confrontation. So that transparency that Deborah was talking about, the beginning stages of creating your culture, that's your first meeting with your parents. That's your first meeting with your student athletes. That's maybe the contract that you have them sign to get started with the season of, this is how we expect you to act, and these are the things we're going to kind of uphold you to. And then, back to Tom's point, that leadership side of it, once you've kind of figured out who your leaders are. And usually the leaders aren't the best on the team, they're the best for the team, right? So, like, once you figure out who those people are, then you got the opportunity to, like, pull them to the side and be intentional. Like, okay, this is what leadership is going to look like for you. And these are the steps that you're going to align the kids with, and I'm going to follow up on you, right? Like, so I think it's detailed, it's intentional. You got to really know, some of it is knowing your history, understanding why schools do the things that they do, and kind of building off of, okay, this is who came before us, and then teaching that to the kids so that they understand why this culture is important. So I think it's intentional. It's definitely intentional, and it takes planning. But to Deb and Tom's point, that's what will create that family vibe, that transparency. All of those things are vital.
All right, I'll chime in next. First off, I blend with everyone what they're saying. It's 100% true, and I'm giving more maybe concrete answers to like what are your thoughts on a value of a team culture and everything. So for those of you starting a program, starting coaching, like I always give expectations and communications early. Like you're communicating with your parents so they understand like this is what I want to do and bring to this program. I'm expecting everyone to be early, XYZ. Like this is like I'm very clear on and intentional with my communication with the families because it is a whole thing. And then every year I did just like Deb, a theme. Like last year for my high school was all in. Like we just said everything's all in. Like I give them 100 million opportunities to be really awesome and grow in the game of lacrosse. And it's like, are you all in? Are you doing it? Or are you just, whatever. So that I change the theme every single year with my coaching staff. And like the seniors usually like chime in with that again, because it feels like they're a part of the culture and bringing positive. And then something I'm trying to blend both like me coaching high school and my club team. So my high school team, we do goals at the beginning of the season, like maybe like right after preseason, and like we all see like where we're at. And I always say like, what's your personal goal and what is your team goal? And we like go off and they write it down on an index paper and then or index card, and then I go in groups of 4 and then they share and they get a little bit more comfortable. And then I do like a little bit larger group. And then I'll go like by the end, the whole team is sharing their individual goal and their whole team goal. And it's so rewarding and refreshing, like to have the girls be like, I have the same goal or like whatever or something. So, and then we always hang it up in our locker room or our team room. And we're just there. So like, did you accomplish your goal? So we really like just blend in this, like, we're here to do it for each other. On the flip side, with my club team, I start early because we're doing their recruiting season. Their heavy recruiting season is their sophomore year. So like I sit down summer going into their sophomore year when they're starting to promote themselves and college coaches are on the sideline. I try to tell them like, where do you want to play in college? Like, and I do the exact same thing of like, I sit in a group of 4. They tell like where they want to go. Then they groups of 8, larger. And then I just develop this, like at the end, the whole team is sharing, like, I want to try to go to the ACC. Like I want to be local because I want my parents to come see all my games. Or like I'm really striving for a top Division 1 program. And like when they all listen to each other, they're like, okay. And then we devise a plan. Like Marley wants to play at Navy, so let's get her to Navy. And we're like it was like one of the best compliments I've ever received when I talked to college coaches. They're like, man, your team plays like a team. That was so fun to watch. And I feel like we all knew what the assignment was early on and had the expectation. So summarizing, have clear-cut expectations and for your teammates and your families early on.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll add my my little bit here. It's hard to add on to all that. There's such good information there, but I think as the face of a program, the leader, and somebody who really values team culture, I think you just always have to keep the best interest and the big picture in mind. Most families will not have that same mindset, unfortunately, as much as you'd like them to. But that comes to culture. That comes with, like Julian was talking about, with the history, knowing your history, and sometimes it comes down to even the specific families and the stakes that they hold in your program. So. Sometimes you have to make, when I say sometimes, I mean a lot of times you have to make tough decisions that aren't necessarily popular, but you need to be strong and assertive with your decisions. Teaching athletes and parents about accountability and justify your rules in your system, that can be very, very valuable. Experience and accolades can only buy you so much time before you need to have some form of growth and success come forward. So today's athlete, I feel like they really need to see success and results. Oftentimes, they crave them a little bit more quickly than in the past. So a team culture that everybody buys into takes time, takes preparation, persistence, and accountability. That's a big one. So as you're developing your system, you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to adjust as you go. And learning to coach, honestly, it takes time and it's a process. So I'll just kind of tie it all together, though. The best teams, honestly, that I've been a part of are athlete driven, where the team holds each other accountable. It's not the coach that is always the bad guy. It is the athletes and the leaders on the team that hold each other accountable, and those are the teams that function at the highest level, in my opinion. So, awesome. Thank you, everybody, for those awesome answers there. We'll move on to the next question. Uh, what is your tryout process, and how does it differ between age levels, varsity and JV? And then expanding on that, how do you go about emphasizing winning and losing between age groups and levels of development? So tryout process and emphasizing winning and losing between age groups and levels of development.
I'll start. We don't cut anybody because we need everybody we can get. Uh, Football is as much about depth as anything, and we always tell the next man up that they have to be ready to go. And it doesn't matter at what level. I have coached elementary, junior high, JV, and high school. We've never cut anybody from our program. We tell them they'll cut themselves, and they usually cut themselves by not being able to be on time, or becoming an energy vampire, or taken away from the team. So with that, winning and losing, um, it's about the process more than the wins and losses. Of course, we would like. I've been on both sides. I've had the 0 for 9 team, and we've had the 12-1 team, and actually, I'm probably more proud of the 0-9 team because it was the first year we went from the mid-pen into the Whippeal, and the Whippeal socked us with all the best teams, and like Pittsburgh Central Catholic was our off week. It was supposed to be the easy week playing the out of conference team, and they socked us with that. So those teams hung in there and did a good job with actually the sons of probably some of our worst teams. So uh, I think you're proud of anybody's effort if they put in their best, and there's been plenty of those here. Um, but as far as cutting, most of our programs don't cut anymore. Maybe in the 90s, there was a lot of cutting in girls basketball and things like that. But no, in football, we don't cut.
I'll chime in next if that's okay. Same. Do not cut. So I'm a phys ed teacher at the middle school. So and I sit next to and work next to and with the athletic director for the middle school. So I'm in the nose of everything. And like at the middle school level, we do something really fun because so many kids are learning sports at the first time, or they're just starting PIAA sports in 7th grade. So we make like 3 teams like per team. We do like a gold, red, and black. So like your gold team will be like your obvious starters. They've played before. And then the red and black alternate and they all practice together. So like using a basketball team, for example, an ideal roster is like 10, maybe. Okay. So you have your starting 5 or 6, then but we keep like 16 to 18. So then we have more girls like, and honestly, the people at the high school, the coaches have been so thankful. They always talk to us and say like, thank you for keeping kids because it keeps kids around wanting to play at the high school. So it's been such a positive. We've been doing that for like the last 5 years at the middle school, and it's just really worked out. Our boys soccer team, they did that for the last couple of years, had just a crazy amount of kids playing boys soccer, and they went to states this year. And they literally attribute it to that. They're like, these kids like always leave and go to club programs, and they don't stay and have, pride for their school. And then same thing with the high school, we don't cut anyone. So you, and same thing with my club team. Like I have a hard time cutting a kid if they're coming out for a club team. I will have you as a practice player, or I will communicate very clearly, like limited playing time for whatever avenue I'm talking about. But it's all about communication.
I'll jump in. When it comes to that exact process for tryouts, I think my main focus, I always want to make sure the athletes know exactly what they need to be doing when they get there. They're nervous, they think they're going to mess up, and they really believe one mess up means they're cut. So I want to make sure I'm really clear. And this is a system that if you are going to have to pare down your team and make cuts. I don't typically cut in many of my programs, but I am a conceptual thinker. I have to look at the team that I've had in year past. What does it look like with the people that I'm putting on the field? Because although it always seems great when you have that conversation like, hey, stay with us, you're going to be part of our family, you're going to be part of our culture and our team, but then they don't play, but they practice. People want to compete. And if you have them there at practice, I want them to compete too. But at the high school level, the ultimate goal is to move forward into post play. And to do that, you need to win. So I am conceptual. What does it look like for me next year if I carry more kids that might not be ready to compete? So each year it looks a little bit different, but when they come in, I need to let them know exactly what that evaluation criteria looks like. I have a sheet just in case somebody says, hey, why would this happen? If an athletic director ever came up and say, hey, why did you cut Deb Lawler from the team? I want to have evidence. I want to be able to support it. If a student athlete emails me and says, hey, coach, can you tell me what I can improve on? Absolutely. Let me pull out my sheet and I can break it down for them. So that's super important to me for tryout process. The difference between varsity and JV for me is it's really based on athleticism. Because if I have a young kid and they have some athleticism in them, but might not be knowledgeable in the game, I will still give them room to grow. I don't really cut it off by grades or grade levels like I see a lot of coaches do. And I also really believe that in that JV program, I'm more about let them play. The end result isn't as powerful, but if you have 20 kids on your JV team and you're playing a team, all 20 should be on the field at that time. And I was really happy to hear when Devin said that, they don't make cuts at middle school. I too would love programs not to do that because sometimes you have those late bloomers or they don't start to pick up a game until later on. And then when they get to the high school and it starts to connect, you could have missed them if you made that cut. So I really appreciate that we don't cut at the early ages because they're still just growing through it and starting to love the game. That's just my 2 cents. But when we do try out sport specific game awareness, physical fitness, although that's not the end all. And I'm also one of those coaches that I have goalies in my both my sports. I'm not the coach that says that the goalie has to run the same amount as a midi. I'm just not. It's not the same. I will battle that to the end. And my goalies who might not be able to do a mile in under 12, 15 minutes, but they're standouts between the pipes, and I'll take it. So effort, coachability, attitude, teamwork, and communication. That's how I look at my tryout process in a small segment. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
All right, I'll jump in here. Everybody had great stuff. So I guess mine is a little different. I do have to make cuts every year. Basketball is a really popular sport, so It has become the sport that everybody kind of wants to play. The thing that we try to pride ourselves on, though, is we do have to cut people from playing basketball. That doesn't necessarily mean we have to cut them from participating in basketball. So typically we have 3 teams. So I had to bring back a team. I brought back the freshman team probably 3 years ago because our basketball had just gotten really popular in our school, and things were going well. So we kind of somebody mentioned divvying them up like based on color. We kind of do that before they get there. I discovered long ago that private institutions are really different when it comes to parents and sporting events and things that they want their child to do. But we were blessed with these things called huddle cameras. And so I've been recording my tryouts for the last 4 or 5 years. And I, similar to Deb, I try to come up with like, hey, these are the things that we're definitely looking for. This is what we need. We're making 3 teams. So if 42 kids try out, we got to get down to 34. That means there are 8 kids that are kind of in between. We get an opportunity, it's a 3-day tryout. So it's a Friday, it's a Saturday, and then it's an additional session, and usually that Monday, or sometimes we do 2 on that Saturday, so that they can get a lot of just reps, being able to play the blue team maybe versus the gold team, and the gold team is all the kids that were on the team last year, right? And it's all on film. We get an opportunity to go back and kind of check it out after, just make sure that we're making the right choice. And it also makes it for those kind of transparent conversations when we're talking to kids like, hey, coach, can we talk about what you saw? Of course we can. Come on, let's come in. Let's talk basketball. I think the thing that we do a good job of, we've become really social media savvy. So like we have videographers, we have managerial staff, we have statisticians, we have guys that we just have photographers. We have recruiters, people that kind of do like our recruiting game day stuff. So we don't really cut anybody from the program. We try and bring them back into the fold in another way, because at the end of the day, it's about the community. So like as much as we can get people from the community supporting boys basketball, then we're going to do it that way. Even if it is your time to hang up your sneakers. For some, it is certainly that time. And we try to do our best to just kind of keep people around. And then there was another question that talked about like proper emphasis on winning and losing. I think that all depends on what you got that year, right? Like some days, some years, and I'm in a similar year right now where like the day is the win, right? It's not necessarily the game that's 2 days from now. Like, can we win today? Can we get the low hanging fruit that comes into today? Like, can we make sure we not miss a weak side box out literally in this next possession? Like, can we do that? And trying to win those little moments, because those are the things that'll kind of build into different pieces of your season, and just having success, what success should look like. But then there's other years where, similar to what Tom's about to get, you're about to get the kids of the kids that went to a couple championships, and these kids can all really play. And it's going to be important to hold your culture strong, because at the end of the day, it's educational athletics. It's not necessarily about winning the games. But, there is an emphasis on, at times, nobody blast me for this one. There is an emphasis on doing what you are prepared to do. If you've been prepared to do something, you've been prepared to take care of something, you want to be able to follow through with that. And again, educational athletics, similar to a job. You've been prepared to do a job every day, and you want to go in and you want to do that well. I like to win in the classroom when my kids leave and they know exactly what I taught on 2-step equations. When they don't know it, I lost. So it's important sometimes with certain teams to be thinking about like, all right, we prepared to win. Did we make strides towards that, and did this other team just beat us? And right, the life lessons that come along with that. So I think that proper emphasis really depends on just kind of where you are as a team, as a program in that moment, because you're always going to have those kind of years where it's just not the same, and the winning isn't the priority. But kind of bringing all of those things together between like making sure the tryouts are fair and something that you can kind of go back and talk about, and then emphasizing winning based on like what is going to make the most sense for this group and for the community? And am I making sure that my culture, going back to that first question, is that the most important? Because that's got to be the most important.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll add my piece here. So just for tryouts, we have at least 3 days of tryouts. The administration a lot of times will give you some guidance depending on if they agree with what you're doing or say you need to do this. So we are kind of required to do at least 3 days of tryouts to justify our decision. So I like to make sure I give the number that is making the team, and tennis is different than some other team sports where you're playing together. Tennis does have a ladder of strength. So making sure you have your number clearly explained, and if you do feel like you can eye up your team beforehand and say, these are going to be some bubble players, and maybe we should have maybe one extra player. You can kind of explain that in your communication with your families. Um, so. I try when I have to send kids down to JV. I'm not going to say they're cut. I'll have to say, you're not going to be on the varsity roster at this point. We're going to have you play on JV. I like to do everything in person, face to face, rather than posting or emailing. I think it's important that myself and the assistant coach, if I have an assistant coach, can explain our reasoning, maybe some things to work on for next year, even some things to work on so that later in the season they can maybe potentially get called up. So face to face is really, really important, and not avoiding the tough conversations is really big in my book. Letting them know potentially, hey, you can keep that kid who was the last cut motivated by saying, you could be my first call up. So just stay hungry, make sure you're at the top of the JV ladder. So when the time comes, inevitably when a player's sick or has something else to do, because kids do a million things nowadays, be ready for the call. So don't shy away from the tough conversations. Um, JV, we don't really have cuts unless our numbers are really big. Coaching at the same school as Julian, I know basketball has huge numbers, and we usually have pretty big numbers. We do have a nice tennis program as well. So we usually don't have to cut, but sometimes we'll have to send kids to a managerial role or potentially say, hey, would you like to try another sport if it comes to that? So, um, but in terms of the other question, I kind of look at my team. I look at how we played, how we've been practicing, and some observable things like effort, enthusiasm, body language when it comes to the winning and the losing piece. Different players respond in different ways to coaching, and it's up to you to kind of know those players and know, how to get the best out of all your players. Somehow, some way, you have to take what you have in front of you and get the most out of each one of those players. So knowing your players can help in how you frame the messages, both individually and as a team. So awesome. Moving on to the next question. What are some things that all coaches should be aware of with regard to liability?
Uh, I'll give you a couple personal stories. I've been around long enough that two lightning strikes have occurred on the practice field while I've been on there, and they were old school coaches that weren't coming off, and it was before there was a full-time athletic trainer. So one hit the door, and one took the top off a tree, and then we left the practice field, even though most of us coaches were ready to get off a long time before that. But in today's thing, we have a full-time athletic director who has some kind of radar, and he knows when lightning strikes within 10 miles of us and tells us to go in for a certain amount of time, and we can't come out for a half hour after. So the addition of the full-time athletic trainer has been a great thing for our school. It also saved the kid that had a heat stroke one day. He was probably our best lineman. Just right before he went down, I was like, man, he looks great this year. I went in to put ice on some other kid, and within 5 seconds he was down with blue lips. We didn't know that he was dieting during 2 days and also taking some kind of diet pill, and that almost killed him. And having our trainer there that day, he knew instantly to pack him on ice. All the coaches made one straight line, packed him in ice. We had just had someone leave with a bad concussion. That ambulance turned around, came back to the field. They packed him in. He got life flighted to Pittsburgh. But he lived. He got to play another year of high school football on a medical. Ended up going to IUP. Probably was headed a lot bigger than that before that, but to this day, him and that athletic trainer have a great relationship, and we're very thankful for that athletic trainer. So I'd say that. And then there was the year that I got hired. We had been down to like 50 some players, and I had come back from Tyrone, even though I taught at the school, and we got 100 and some players out. So they didn't have enough helmets that were certified. There's every 10 years, I think you have to get new ones. Well, they had to buy like 30, so I can't say they were very happy at that point with me. But it provided a whole new inventory of equipment. So also having our athletic trainer, he's in charge of inventorying all the of the equipment and making sure that all your helmets, our Rydell associate lives right in the neighborhood of our football stadium, so he came over and he helped us out, and always making sure that uh, we only have $12,000 every year for the football budget as far as equipment, and that would buy maybe 5 helmets, 10, 5 helmets, 5 shoulder pads, whatever. So they had to reach into another kitty for that, but it was worth it. And for the next 10 years, we were in good shape for helmets. So I'll leave it at those two things.
The only thing I was actually thinking about for this, and I actually just started recently doing this, um, coaches just get acquainted with like your emergency action plans. So like there are definitely some specifically probably made for wherever you practice or anything like that, wherever you might frequent with your team. Just kind of get to know them. I think and this is really, man, my social media. I look at social media too much, so I see too many stories of things just happening on practice fields, on practice floors, and just knowing kind of where the documentation lives. I can't say that my team has practiced it this year. We should have, but we looked at it, we read over it, we talked about where each spot was. And that is something that I don't know, just kind of starts to lurk around on my mind, especially in the day and the world that we live in. So just get acquainted with your emergency action plans. Your like whoever runs your building has them. Your athletic director probably has them. It's probably in your like handbook or something like that. So I know some schools have started like just posting it on the wall, like they just stick it there. So like knowing where AEDs are, all that stuff. Like that's definitely something to like really start to think about, especially if you're coming from off campus and you're not really a part of the staff, like the everyday staff. And sometimes that's just not something that you get a chance to kind of think about. But definitely something important. And we're thinking liability, right? That is something that could become a question or a point of emphasis at some point. Prayerfully, you never had to deal with that, but
I'll jump in. I think I'm that over planner when it comes to, as soon as my team is chosen, one of the first things I do is we're meeting the trainer. We go make sure they understand why she's there. And I make sure she speaks to them that she's there to put them back on the field, not keep them off the field. And once they hear that, they'll be more apt that when they do feel sick, when they are injured, if they have something pre-existing, that they're not afraid to meet with a trainer. I think that does break that barrier, which has helped us in the past years recently when I came up with that idea. But just talking about the basics of nutrition, hydration, the sleep that you need, how do you prepare for a game? What do you do after a game is super important. But really that liability piece, once she's done meeting with my team, we also go through just like Julian said, our emergency action plan. Every grade has a job. Since ninth grade is new to the building, they have the least to do. My seniors are charged with getting to the building, getting the AED. My juniors are, because we're not that close to the building. Where does the ambulance? Meet them at the bottom, stand at the gate, tell them where to come in. Everybody has a job to do. And in my classes as a health and PE teacher, I always pick two people who I would call upon. They don't know it, but I know who I have faith in that could do the job while I am triaging. So in my mind, that has actually had to come to fruition and it worked pretty well. I don't want to sound like that person, but don't trust that people know what to do in an emergency. You have to be prepared. If I have a young lady that is asthmatic or is allergic to bees, they have a buddy. There's a ribbon on their bag. They know if somebody's having an allergy, it's the purple ribbon. Go get the bag. So I'm probably over the top, but unfortunately, I've had to jump into a couple situations that I think are valuable in time. And then lastly, big for me, follow up with the athlete and the parent and the trainer. I don't care how small the injury is. I'm really big on, I do it. My subject is checking in my email, and I want the kid to email me back that night what they're doing, how they're feeling, and I check in with them at school the next day. The thing that makes me most nervous is when I'm traveling to away games, I'm the sole passenger of the older age on the bus. And that, to me, liability doesn't put me in the best position, but that's where you got to lean on your parents that if they had to, that they would team up. One would take the car home. If I needed to go to the hospital and somebody would be on the bus. I think that's the only part that I haven't been able to master is my liability. But that's one of the things I want to make sure my team is clear on. And that we all have, like Julian said, an action plan in place that our school district has put some time into. So that would be my 2 cents. Oh, and lastly, if a kid says they're ready to return, don't always believe them. Go through the protocol. I'm a firm believer in that too, as you know, with concussion.
I feel like Deb and I are kindred spirits. I'm like, I do almost everything, follow protocols, do all like the certifications that you have to before you start your season. Your best friend is the trainer and your athletic director because you want to follow their protocols too. Just, I guess, to summarize, just follow the rules as best as possible. And same thing, like you have to have like dot your I's, cross your T's, like always communicate with the parents and the AD and all that stuff before like a kid comes back. So
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll add my sense here. I would say the biggest thing is always erring on the side of caution. Always, always, always be cautious. Don't be alone with players. Our school says the rule of three. I'm not sure if every school says that, but I know we do. If you have to be alone, which hopefully you don't, get consent from a parent or make the athletic department aware if situations arise where you have to, be alone on a bus or a van sometimes. Certainly, that's something that should be a last resort, and planning can usually stop that from being the case most times. So, um, I know as a male coach that coaches both males and females, being aware of what I'm doing at all times, how I'm saying things, how I'm even body language, just keeping professionalism at the top of everything that I do. Being politically correct, not joking too much with the players, because I'm not their friend. I can certainly be friendly, but you are not their friend. You are their coach. So you don't want to discuss controversial topics. You want to try to keep things kind of general, that can potentially be misconstrued as inappropriate. And then always report and document. Cover your butt. You're always on record, both verbally, visually, and on all your socials. So everything you do and say is always on record. So just be aware of that in terms of liability. So. Um, Awesome. So really quickly, I know we've been talking a lot. Are there any questions from anybody out there that you've heard anything, you have a question, you want us to follow up on anything before we get to the fourth question? If so, you can either just unmute or put it in the chat.
I have a question for all of you. Um, so bullying and hazing in a locker room setting. We've had coaches in locker rooms, and that gets weird. We've had coaches not in locker rooms and had things happen. Um, My son, who coaches 8th grade basketball, was on the bus with a 7th grade coach. They sat at the front, they walked up and down the bus, and hazing still happened in the dark on the way home. So now they're sitting in the back in the middle of the bus, and they're down 2 or 3 players. So I just want to hear, what do you guys do in your schools as far as, like, we have morning lifting, we have phys ed teachers on each side of in their offices. They don't actually come out and look into the showers, but they're in there while they're showering in the morning after lifting class. That's most of our 2 sport athletes are in there. For football, we'll walk through, but we won't stay in there, and we're within earshot of how, of the door. But I want to hear how other school districts handle it.
I'm sorry, I got nothing here. I think not to make this sound terrible, but in the women's sports, I don't think we see as much of it as male sports, and it might be more heightened in particular sports, I will say. So I wouldn't be someone to offer too much. I will say the only thing that I do, because again, the awkwardness of being in areas where there are people that are, not decent. As a women phys ed teacher, I do not like to go into the women's locker room, and I do not like to go into the male locker room. But if there was an emergency, you'd have to go in either to save somebody or something. However, I think the things that I always keep in the back of my mind at all times is the less time that you're doing something, the less time that something can happen. And of course, sound that is, loud or no sound is always problematic. So like there are my two things. Like if it's too quiet, something's happening. And then of course, if there's a ruckus, there's something happening. But yeah, I don't know, Tom. That's a really tough one. It does surprise me. I feel like we got through that in the 80s and 90s, but I think it does occasionally make that resurge. And it can really do some damaging. And even in a team in our Montgomery County area just had some problem with it. And I was very surprised. I felt like that was something that the kids really didn't bring back into teams. But again, I think social media blows it up and makes people do things that otherwise they wouldn't normally do. But yeah, Tom, I feel for you on that one, but I don't really have any good guidance.
I know like our high school, I don't like, I am going to be general. I think I know the couple of our male teams, like you're not allowed to be in the locker room past a certain amount of time. So what Deb said, like shortened timed, everything is like in out. And I'm pretty sure there's like a no phone policy in locker rooms, which I feel like alleviates a lot of like the sitting around, things could happen, social media. So like there's like that little like expectation, I guess. So because there was like a couple years ago, something happened, same thing. And it was like the coaches would just wait outside the locker room. And then it just has developed into being like, you're allowed 5 minutes max is it. Like, yes, of course things could happen in 5 minutes, but it's like you're in out. Like we won't unlock the locker room until that time, and we lock it afterwards. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And our last question, very, very important topic, and it's very, very prevalent today, even more so now, I feel like, or maybe it's just more covered in media. But we all know partnering with families is a large part of sports now. What are some of the ways that all of you have partnered with your athletes' families, and what are some of the things that you should avoid or set boundaries with when you're partnering with your families?
Well, I'll jump in. I've definitely had to do a lot more partnering nowadays with, recruitment. I think with basketball, and I'm sure all the other sports, recruitment has now become the hot and buzzy word for many families, many student athletes. So that partnership, as I'm, a person that is connected with AAU coaches and I do know some collegiate coaches that have sent some kids to schools over the years. Being able to kind of talk to kids about like and families, that transparency of like, hey, this is what I think is probably the best level for you. Maybe I think this is your best level, but I'm going to try and help you get to this level. Maybe I don't think you're this level, and hey, man, we need to be thinking about this level. Um, Having those conversations, talking to coaches, kind of bringing people up to school for open runs or things of that nature. Sending out film, sending out video, emails, things like that. That's definitely a partnership that a coach in our position should be doing. And that, you know, sometimes I'm putting it on our social media accounts and things of that nature to just make sure that that piece of the partnership where my job is to help them get to whatever their next goal is. I'm making sure that I'm taking care of that. And then I think the other partnering piece for me is just like communication, like just talking to them a lot, making sure that they know what it is that we have going on this week or whatever our fundraisers this week. What are we trying to do? What are the service events that the kids need to be at, and what time do they need to be at things? Just to make sure that they're kind of aware of how involved this is, and you know they're the ones usually driving kids to and fro. So just trying to make sure that they're informed, and though between those two partnerships, those are kind of the ones that I'm utilizing kind of the most. And then within the culture piece, if you have built in like that, I know Dev and Devin were talking earlier about having like a motto for the year. So if you are using your culture as a place for educational athletics, letting the parents know like, hey, these are some of the things that we're talking about, and this is how we're trying to become better humans overall, whatever that might look like for your team. So those are definitely some of the partnerships that coaches should be thinking about, and if you have the capacity to do so, definitely doing.
Happy to chat next, unless you want to go, Tom. Good. For new coaches, older coaches, whatever, like I think using being a teacher uses like a platform for our community. And I think that is like one of the best tools to help have a partnership with your families is like, holy cow, I see all these kids all the time. And I'm like, I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere in the Haverford Township community. Like I'm at kids' games. I'm helping out at rec. I'm seeing them at performances, blah, blah, blah. And like that kind of starts this awesome relationship with families. It's like, it's a lot of work on the back end to have like a successful front end. It's like, so to me specifically with like lacrosse, and that's the main focus for myself is like I started the rec program. So that's at like third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade. I'm helping out, I'm volunteering so they know my face, they know my name, I'm reputable. And then they're lucky that they get to see me at the middle school. So I always help out with lacrosse stuff at the middle school. We're all the same campus at Haverford. So like our middle school and high school teams like blend together. Our high school team practices at least once a week at our rec center. So then we stay after, and our high school team will help the rec community. And so then now I'm seeing parents there. And then I'm like with club lacrosse in high school, I'm helping them get recruited. So like this is like my third night in a row. I've been on a Zoom in some capacities with coaching. Like last night I was just on for recruiting, and I was on with all parents and like helping their daughter. Like they want to have a relationship with me because I'm the one who's the helping them talk to college coaches on their behalf. So like I said, using your teaching platform to help with community it's a blessing to have this like really awesome relationship with parents. And I've never really had a parent or families that are like we're like boundaries broken or anything. Like I think parents genuinely want their daughters or kids have success. So if anything, they're like, how can I help, and want to have like a positive relationship with me and our coaching staff and stuff like that. So the last thing I'll just say is like just having like absolutely communicating That's like the number one thing parents always compliment me on. I'm always talking to like ahead of time. What am I doing? Weekly emails. So it's positive.
I'll piggyback on what Devin said. We're in a really good spot. Our head coach is also a vice principal of our school, so he gets to talk to them sometimes in a bad way, in not punishments, but in what they have to do when they act up. But then I could be the good guy because I've known them for 30 years, and we have guys on our staff that are at the middle school and in elementary school, so we can hit them at all the levels. And after 30 years, you build up pretty good relationships. I'd say the keyboard warriors are the ones that create the most, especially if somehow one of us read it. I don't know. I never had time to read it when I was the head coach, and I would hope that most of them don't pay attention to it. But when they do, that's when things can fly. And one guy was complaining, and his daughter's dating one of our coaches' sons. So that guy confronted him out in the yard, and actually, it solved the problem pretty quick. But we would rather not have those type of confrontations. So I think we're at a good spot, but you could see. It's just you need everybody on the same page and rowing the boat the same way. And hopefully that's when you have your best teams, and hopefully that's what we want in our community.
I'll jump in. Just like with my students, they need to buy in, or my student athletes, the parents need to buy in too. We use a messaging, it's called Remind, to get things out. Some people have another platform that they use. I like it because the parents can join it. So if you're doing a blast, you could either just do your student athletes or you can include everyone. And 9 times out of 10, if it's not something like, hey, we're going to leave a little early on the bus. If it's not something little, the parents hear my communication as well. So having that has been easier for parents to juggle their home life as well with other children, siblings, or what have you. So they do like that communication. The other thing that parents like, they want to be a part of the program. So what I try to do is we have traditions. Like if we have a Play for the Cure game, the parents X, Y, and Z grade level, you're in charge. Banquet, have it. Juniors do it for the send off for the seniors. We just have different ways that our parents have already infiltrated the needs that we have. And if you have ownership, then you have settlement. So that's a good thing because people feel value when they have a job to do and that they've been a part of the program. So I welcome buy-in. However, as you know, sometimes parents, once they feel like they have a voice with you, then they can start to critique you. So there needs to be that boundary. And I think that comes through experiences of, being a coach. I'm at my, like I said, 34th year. Years ago, I've established myself that people do not speak to me unless they know it's something I want to hear. So I don't have to, teach I don't want to say teach, but the education's already been there, that the families know I have high expectations and this is the way the program is going to go. I always tell my athletes, if we all go in the same direction, even if it's a direction you don't believe in, we'll be successful. If we're going in a direction, half of us and the other half don't believe it, and go the other half, even if the other half is right, we will fail. And I say that to my parents, and they're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So no matter what direction we're going, they have to join. And somebody said, get on the boat, we're rowing, we're going to make that boat run smoothly. It takes the parents as well. I say to the kids after a hard game, if you get in a car and your parents start chatting about the game, you need to understand you have a job to do. And your job is to advocate for the team and say, Mom, Dad, Grandma, Gramps, Pops, we already solved that on the field. It's taken care of. You can chat, but I'm not going to respond. Like you have to advocate. What we do as a team has to be left here. And that goes home, and the parents are like an aha moment. And it does really resonate with families, and it has been very beneficial to our program. And that's how we become closer. So bring the parents in, use them. They love to have ownership. but also as a coach, just know boundaries. And through years of experience, those boundaries just will be natural. They'll be set there for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Deb. And I'll just add my piece here. Big thing for me is weekly emails. I think Devin had mentioned them. Weekly emails are huge. Give dates, give time. I mean, I talk to my high schoolers like they're second graders, unfortunately. But give dates, give times, give locations, expectations, preparation. I love to do look aheads as well. Like I'll do my daily schedule, I'll do my weekly schedule, and then I'll say, look ahead, put this in your calendar, and they'll still forget, but that's okay. I'll just keep reminding them. So weekly emails are a big deal. I meet with my families virtually a couple weeks prior to each season to go over the team handbook. I do have a team handbook that I've adjusted throughout the years. It started as a college handbook, and now it's kind of adjusted itself to a more realistic for a high school student athlete handbook. I set the ground rules and expectations, make sure families know their roles. I'm pretty direct with the parents and the student role, kind of saying which is which. And then some st parents will still push the issue, as we often know. Parents, unfortunately, a lot of times um, can't separate what their role is and what their student or what their child's role is, and can push their ideas and influence sometimes. So it is important to be very direct and let them know up front what, and then obviously having the administration having your back is a big deal as well. So. Um, but the good side of it is trying to offer opportunities for families to be involved in non-competitive things for your team, help you get volunteers. A lot of families are very eager to volunteer and help out in any way they can. I think it was like Deb just said, it will allow for ownership and buy into your program. So do team building with players and families, your main goal a lot of times is making the experience enjoyable and valuable. Your relationships with families can actually have a really big role with the inevitable tough conversations. Building that trust, and sometimes that takes some time. Building that trust with those families, building relationships, and when those conversations or decisions need to be made that might not be as well received, sometimes they can go a little bit better if you already have that relationship. So, one of the X factors can be when money or donations are involved. This can create awkward conversations and situations, so making sure to keep accurate records of any money raised, and also not even taking that a step further, making sure that everybody knows exactly what you're fundraising for. Big rule of thumb for me, never talk about players or families to other players or families, unless it's general or it's positive. That's a big part of professionalism. I would say that's very comparable to being a teacher. Be professional, be thankful, and often, you have to do a lot more listening than explaining your point of view when you're talking to families. So, and another thing, lastly, you are not obligated to explain your decisions. If you choose to do that, then you can, but you are not obligated. Make your decisions, stick to them. So. Awesome. Well, that was the final question in our topics that we had talked about discussing. I do want to open it up to anybody who has any questions. If you've heard anything that you want us to expand on, if there's anything that you want to talk about, give a point of view, give an example, anything like that, you're welcome to do so right now. If you'd like to put it in the chat or just unmute yourself, that would be fine too. So, yeah, the floor is open. I guess we were so thorough in our coverage of topics. Or it could be 8:15 on on a what day is it now? I forget. I've been off for so long. Tuesday, 8:15 on a Tuesday. I'm sure we'll have to get up for work tomorrow. So, um, if there aren't any questions, I would just like to extend my most sincere thank you to Tom, Devin, Deb, and Julian for being part of this very important professional development, offering their guidance, offering their experience, their wisdom to all of you. Coaching is an incredibly important part of development of children. Most kids will have a sports experience at some point, and it's up to us to make sure it is positive and valuable, whether they are a top athlete or whether they are just trying to get some exercise. Because after all, we are health and phys ed teachers, a lot of us. So, whether they choose to, uh, do elite athletics or they just want to have a little fun and be active, it's up to us to make things positive. So, thank you so much, everybody, for coming, and have a great night.
Thank you all. That was wonderful.
Great job, everyone.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Julian, I wanted to ask you quickly, not to talk about some of your athletes, but Kevin
Sure.
Stroop, does he play on Kevin Stroop?
Stroop went back to Hatboro Horsham.
Did
So
he? Okay, he
did.
came off that ACL, right?
Yeah, he messed his ACL up, and then he went back to Horsham.
Okay.
And I want to say he's a junior right now,
Yeah, I think
and
a
he's
junior.
playing. Yeah, he's playing.
Oh, I
Actually,
bet.
it's funny.
Okay.
I talked to his dad. probably like a week ago. So
Okay.
I shot Kev over a text too. But yeah, he's back. He's back at Horsham.
Okay.
Small world. Yeah,
I'm about to have beef with your Springside Chestnut Hill, right?
yeah.
I'm about to have beef because one of my students, Haverford, is picked apart all the time from private schools, and one of our best goalies, I'm pretty sure he's going there for
No,
lacrosse.
for lacrosse, women's.
Men's.
Oh, Doc's trying to get
I
him.
got him.
I'm so annoyed. He is like, as a sixth grader, people were recruiting him, and he's in seventh grade now, and he's like, I think
Yeah,
I'm leaving. I'm like, what the freak?
yeah. I'm really sorry.
No, he's so good. He's so good. So like,
I
whatever.
believe if the number one, the guy that probably plucked him away from you is the best goalie of all time, like documented. He went to Duke. He was like ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
I know. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No, it's like notorious at Haverford because we're like sandwiched between the
Yeah,
Haverford
you're right at the Haverford
Episcopal,
School.
yeah,
You
you
got
Friend
got that. You got
Central,
them too.
everywhere. It's
you
like
got Baldwin that
Catholic schools out the
way.
wazoo.
Yeah, like you just got
Really
everybody
annoying.
right there. I'm sorry. We are sorry.
I could have gone in depth in this subject alone. It's like how to keep kids at Haverford or keep kids in your program because it's so hard. We get